So if we don't know these things, we cannot. So in my opinion, reductionism is the problem. And the scholars are not updating themselves, they're not engaging with their legacy.
Yeah. So can I actually ask you about Mu'tazila as a school of thinking? Now, my understanding is that Mu'tazila is outside of the Ahl Sunnah branch. So the free schools you mentioned of Aqidah, they come within what you term the acceptable opinions within Islam. But Mu'tazila stands outside of that, particularly because of their extreme rationality. How did early Islamic scholars view Mu'tazila? Did they see them as part of a branch of Islam, or did they see them to be outside of Islam, effectively unbelievers?
The problem we face in understanding the Mu'tazila is the sources. We don't have the original sources.
Right.
We take the information from the opponents, from the books of Ash'ari. And the majority of the works about the sects has been compiled by Ash'ari.
Right.
Like the main work of Imam Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari, Milal and Nihal. So we don't know. We have access to some works. And understanding a sect or a group or an ideology from its opponents is not the correct way to approach this.
Right.
We will lack objectivity in that engagement. And recently some works have been published about the Mu'tazila. The approach generally is that Muslims, the 72 sects are Muslims. And even the scholars who are deemed extreme in their ideology, they have agreement on this, like Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah. He says 72 sects are Muslims, very clearly. Except fringe elements and very extreme sects. So they're Muslims. However, they criticized the methodology. But it's very interesting to note, that's why this ikhtilaf, regulating, they engaged with them, they cherished it. Who doesn't, from the Mufassirun, the mainstream Mufassirun, who does not use the book of Imam al-Zamakhshari, Al-Kashaf.
He's Mu'tazili?
He's a Mu'tazili.
Really?
Shaykh al-Mu'tazili. And he would take pride in that. It's very famous when Imam Zamakhshari would visit a person and knock on the door, and he would introduce himself. If the person would ask who is there, he would say Shaykh al-Mu'tazila. I'm the Shaykh of Mu'tazila. So they accept it. And we can learn from Mu'tazila in many matters. So we can learn from them. Like for example, it's very famous about Mu'tazila that they reject the Sunnah, right? But the book of Al-Imam al-Balkhi, famous Mu'tazili, was published recently about the riwayah, the hadith. In that he endorses Khabar Ahad. And it's very interesting to see the Mu'tazili influence on the Hanafi hadith terminology. Because Hanafis have extra conditions. They disagree in the conditions with the majority. So Hanafis were influenced by the Mu'tazila in their hadith terminology. And it's very clear. And Mu'tazila were influenced by by Imam al-Shafi'i, the work of Shafi'i. So you see influence. They're benefiting from each other. And in our times, we're fighting on their names. This is a problem. So yes, we have to maintain the mainstream. We have to maintain the usul. We have to maintain the qat'iyat, al-kulliyat, the higher objectives, usul, principles of religion. But at the same time, we can engage. And I see great diversity in our legacy, wallahi. I sometimes listen to Shia scholars as well. I don't have any problem in that. We should learn. That's why I said we should learn from the West. See the political divide. Left and right. They engage. We lack this engagement because we have lost the catalyst, the push.
So this is really, really interesting because there is this movement in the Ummah in some in the Ummah to reunite the Muslims. And that's a great, great plan, right? And one idea is that we need to have a coherent state, a government with a clear constitution that's going to inevitably adopt a madhab or a way of thinking. You're effectively arguing this would be out of sync with the Islamic Ummah in the past because we never really had a situation where you had a centralized system and the Islamic fiqh was applied centrally from central government. Am I reading your points correctly here?
We had some Khulafa did that. And we know that the Hanafi madhab was implemented in the Abbasid Khilafah.
And in the Ottoman.
Uthmani Khilafah as well.
Yeah.
We had that.
Yeah.
And we can do that again. Uniting politically.
Yes.
Creating a political system, uniting politically, we can do that. And it would be another experience. We can learn from the experience. But I quoted the scholars. The scholarship never accepted that. So I think we should focus on the higher principles, higher goals, raison d'etre, as I said.
So we unify on the big matters.
And leave the diversity in the branches. Leave it.
But
learn from it.
Yeah. So there is. I'll give you another point.